So next up, we've got a panel entitled Crypto Exchanges, Challenges and Opportunities. The moderator of the panel is Kevin Zhou, founder of Galois Capital. And joining Kevin are Katelyn, the Vice President of Sales and Marketing at HBUS, and Tim Byun, CEO of OKCoin USA. Enjoy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin Zhou. I'm co-founder of Galois Capital and we're a crypto hedge fund. Today we have a couple of special guests. We have Katelyn from Huobi and Tim Byun from OKCoin. So, I thought I'd get started with this panel just by asking each of the panelists to introduce themselves, give a little bit of background on their company and themselves, and then we'll get right into it. So, Katelyn, if you don't mind starting with that.
Sure. I represent HBUS, and HBUS is a U.S. Strategic partner of Huobi Global. So we run Huobi.com marketplace, and we just rebranded to Huobi.com. So we basically are here to offer U.S. audiences an exchange for digital assets with new innovative technology and solutions. My role here at HBUS is I am the VP of Sales and Marketing, and my background really is in the traditional asset management space. So I used to work for companies like Charles Schwab, BlackRock, TD Ameritrade, in different areas like product strategy, trading, and compliance as well.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tim Byun, and I serve as CEO of OKCoin USA. We opened up our office just 6 months ago down the street at 150 Spear in San Francisco, so we're glad to be part of the community here. So good to see everyone. Just a little more about OKCoin. We are a fiat to token trading platform, and we have announced and released the opening of US dollar to TRX pairs. What that means is for you could send in US dollars and trade into TRX as well as a handful of tokens. These tokens are not securities. We only do utility tokens as well as convertible virtual currency. And so we look forward to hopefully seeing you on our platform.
Yeah, thanks for all of that background, guys. So I guess to get started, given that OKCoin and Huobi, they have very long-standing experiences running exchanges in China, and now that you guys are coming to the US, I imagine that there's a couple of major differences. Maybe it has to do with the law, maybe it has to do with the culture, maybe it has to do with, all sorts of things. So I'd like to hear from you guys, what do you think the differences are between running an exchange in China versus running an exchange here? And Tim, if you'd like to get started on that one first.
Sure. I think while the excitement and interest and innovation of tokens, cryptocurrency is a global phenomenon, the major difference between operating an exchange here in the US as well as anywhere in the world is you need to abide by local laws and regulations. Fortunately or unfortunately, back in 2013, so almost 6 years ago, FinCEN provided that virtual currency exchange guidance in their official guidance called Convertible Virtual Currency Guidelines. I believe it was March 2013, so that's available, but it provides a set of rules and standards and principles on how we must abide by those rules to operate in the US. Other than that, obviously we are a lineage to our Chinese exchange, which started also in 2013. But I think we could get into maybe the nuance of that later. But the major difference is regulations.
I actually have to echo that as well. I think the main difference is the regulation. I do have to note, though, that while HBUS is licensing the Huobi marketplace, Huobi.com, we are a separate company. So Huobi Global does not own HBUS or Huobi.com. It's a marketplace that we've licensed to utilize the technologies and solutions so that we can provide the U.S. audience with a lot more options that they weren't privy to before. So having said that, I think the major difference is obviously the compliance aspect. Whether it comes to licensing, right? There's so many different intricacies that come with that. And there's also the obvious, right? The language and cultural barriers. But aside from that, I would say that the regulation is definitely the major one.
Okay, great. So really appreciate the color and the insight over there. So, given that you guys are moving into the U.S. and, expanding over here, there's a couple of major incumbents that are already in the space. Obviously there's some exchanges that have been here in the U.S. for much longer and have been able to generate a lot more liquidity and, just given how long they've been here. So, how do you see your guys, how do you see yourselves taking more U.S. market share from these incumbents? What are some of the things that you do differently from your competitors, and sort of what's the game plan and the business plan there?
Sure. So when you say the marketplace in the U.S. And even globally, I think that's the key here, that it is the marketplace, right? And I don't really look upon like what I am trying to do for HBUS as taking shares away from our competitors. I actually look at it from inviting new players to the space. So when we're talking about that, let's put things into perspective here, right? The whole wealth management industry is a $74 trillion industry. And a segment of that, the securities a portion of that is $18.5 trillion. Digital assets, it's 130 billion at most. So what I'm trying to say here is that the marketplace is still very young. So we want to invite more of the institutional clients to come on board. We want to invite new players to join so that they can understand how to really utilize the digital assets in their portfolios.
Great comments. I want to share maybe a perspective of how I see the whole crypto market, ourselves, and also you folks. You are the entrepreneurs. You're hopefully making a decentralized app, hopefully on the niTROn network. But the real phenomenon of the crypto industry is that everyone kind of started at the same time. There was no old legacy of, Ford building the Model T, and they had decades of lead time. We're all in the same ecosystem. It's a global ecosystem. I think coding is the kind of international language, and so we're all kind of in this ecosystem together. What that really means is it doesn't matter what we started in. We need to compete and provide excellent services wherever we are. And so for OKCoin, our US office is with the purpose of serving US customers. So we need to serve those customers, our US colleagues, very well. And they may have different requirements than our OKCoin Korea or OKCoin Japan or OKCoin Europe, but it's all about serving the customers, and I see it also as the pie is hopefully getting bigger, so it's not just about taking market share from other ecosystem players.
Yeah, I really appreciate those answers. I think both very diplomatic and also very smart. I definitely agree that, since, we're in such a nascent industry, growing the pie means that we don't have to just fight over a very small pie. And I think, it's the sort of thing where competition right now, it seems like it's only lateral, it's not direct competition. And eventually, maybe 10 years down the line, when the market gets more saturated, then it becomes more of that kind of thing where everybody's vying for market share. But, I think until then, and I think that's also one of the reasons why I think this space is so collaborative. And it's because we're all trying to grow the size of the pie, and it's not yet gotten to the point where it's just direct competition. So we really appreciate those answers. Maybe to get into things a little bit more into the weeds. Normally when you're setting up a new exchange, you don't have any customers to start. Eventually you start building some traction. Eventually you start getting limit orders placed into the order book. As a trader, I always remember a saying, and I don't remember who told me, but they said that liquidity begets liquidity, right? I mean, people go to where there is liquidity, and liquidity providers go to where there is order flow, right? So it's kind of a circular, virtuous cycle. So, in your perspective, how do you guys go about thinking about how to get liquidity on your platform, and do you work with any market makers in particular? And if so, what kind of terms do these market makers get?
I'll take it first. Yes, we do use liquidity providers. Their sole mission is to create better depth and a marketplace. I like to think of it like a supermarket. Whether you go to a big, huge Whole Foods market, or you go to a local corner market and you want to buy oranges. Maybe Whole Foods has 20 different varieties and it's stacked 3 feet high. The corner market only has 1 box. But it's ultimately decided by the customer whether you're going to buy that orange or not, right? Do you want to buy 2 good ones at whatever price, or you want to buy a whole box because you're having a soccer, you're responsible for providing orange wedges? I don't know. But what I like to always emphasize is that the customer, you folks, the traders, you need to utilize all the features of an exchange, and it doesn't matter what exchange, but you need to look at the bid-ask price, you need to look at the spread, you need to be patient, just as if you're shopping. And it doesn't matter if you're shopping for a sweater at Gap. You probably spend more time buying that sweater at Gap. That's I don't know. To me, it's not that technical. And these liquidity providers help to narrow that spread and hopefully provide that liquidity for our customers.
As I was mentioning before, once we were able to get our licensing agreement with Huobi Global, we were able to really start accessing a lot of the marketplace that we weren't able to access in the US before. So we definitely use and have access to a lot more order book now, and that also means new market makers and liquidity providers. As to your second question about what kind of special terms, I think you were asking about market makers that we give our market makers. There's definitely things that we can work with our market makers to help us provide more liquidity. Obviously, whether it's tiered fee pricing or maybe they are concerned with withdrawal limits. So we can definitely customize those type of features for them, as well as if there's anything that we haven't considered before, we're also open to exploring that.
Okay, great. And to follow up on that, just for you, Katelyn, so one thing that we noticed in our firm when we were looking at the HBUS order book is that it looks like there is liquidity being replicated directly over from Huobi, right? And I was wondering if this is something that you guys are doing internally, or if there's like a third-party market maker which is cloning over this order book, or if you could get some color on that, that'd be great.
Sure, I think I can share what I can share, and because of the fact that we have a licensing agreement, I don't think I can divulge too much about the details of it, But having said that, we definitely have more access to market makers, as I was saying before, that we didn't have access to. So having that licensing agreement with Huobi Global gave us a global partnership with everyone that we didn't have access to before.
Okay, that's wonderful. Because I think it's actually a huge advantage to have that kind of liquidity replication. Normally you start off with a completely blank order book and you have to build it from scratch. So, I think not having to do that, I think jumpstarts the market a little bit faster. So, definitely good to see. So, maybe getting into things a little bit more on the institutional side. As we all see, a lot of these institutions are starting to come into crypto. And it happens very slowly. It's not that, all of a sudden one day the pensions are in, the endowments are in, right? It moves in steps. First it's usually like family offices, and they start moving in, and then maybe the faster moving prop shops, the proprietary trading shops in Chicago, folks like John Trading, DRW, Susquehanna, and Jing Street, and then eventually to maybe the hedge funds, the banks, and then out to bigger players. So in the process of courting these types and this demographic of trader, right, this institutional type, and from my talks with a lot of them, they seem to be very interested in things which are similar to traditional finance. And what I mean by that is, they're very interested in higher API limits, better API connectivity, whether that's a fixed or binary API, co-location with your servers. Generally it's things that push the market more towards an HFT world, right? And I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on whether you think, this is, I guess to take a step back, ultimately you have a lot of different demographics on an exchange. And the way that you make your rule set and the way that you create your rule book are going to either advantage or disadvantage certain demographics, right, at the expense of others. So in thinking about your entire demographic and your entire base of customers, how do you think about the market moving more towards HFT? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it inevitable? What are sort of the considerations there? Yeah.
I think in a nutshell, it's a good thing. What we're doing is broadening the participation to maybe we put a tag of Wall Street or more financially sophisticated firms, but it's a good thing. Even for entrepreneurs like yourself starting a project on Tron, because it's all gonna trickle down in my opinion. And while we do court and want high-frequency traders, family offices, hedge funds, arbitragers. We also want a mix of very unique and value-adding, exciting projects and tokens. So, but we have to balance whether on the regulatory side, if we can list it in the US, huge factor. I would love to list a lot of things, but I cannot. So that's the balance we have, but I hope that as we enter this new year, I think we're going to see more and more exciting projects, and those tokens might not be in the interest of institutional investors or traders. They might be buying long or short strategies on most likely Bitcoin, but not necessarily a small exciting project that you sponsor.
I think for HBUS, we even have a team made just for the institutional clients. So to say that we are more than excited about this trend is an understatement. I think basically when it comes to all of the enhancements that you were mentioning, what institutional clients are actually looking for, whether it's fixed APIs or even higher liquidity or all the other things, we actually have that on our product roadmap already. So watch for those in 2019. But yeah, so I think we're really excited about this trend and we're eager to get new players into the market.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really think that building an exchange is really building an ecosystem, and you need all sorts of different players to make it work, right? You need people on the taking side, you need people on the making side, you need retail, you need institution. So I think I really appreciate your answers there. And going off of that a little bit, one other thing that institutions are looking for is that I think, they're looking for reliability in the exchange technology and the exchange matching engine, right? So the reason I bring that up is because, and I think every exchange has been guilty of this in the past, which is, during times of high load, when the markets are going crazy, everybody's like pushing orders through all these exchanges, it starts to lag, right? And we saw this with every bull run, right? 2011, both bull runs, 2013, that bull run, and then 2017. So, have you guys, thought about or made any improvements on the matching engine, on the throughput of the systems, so that next time when the bull run does come, that you guys will be able to handle all of the throughput that's necessary, all of the orders that are coming in from all of your customers?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when it comes to what you were talking about, the ups and downs of market, and obviously that's when you need an exchange like us to be the most accurate and speedy with our execution. I've seen it as well in the traditional asset management space. When I first started in trading, I used to get, hey, where's my order status? Why is it not showing up? How come this doesn't look like it went through? I placed a limit order, it hit that limit, it didn't go through. So I think, that itself sounds very familiar. And I'm not saying that we're really, really far behind the traditional markets, but at the same time, the fact of the matter is that we are a little behind. That's why all these different healthy competitions is really going to help us really enhance ourselves and get us to that next level where we are matching orders like in nanoseconds, right? In terms of our performance, in terms of order matching and whatnot, I believe it's 1 million order per second. But having said that, there's a lot of things that really play into that performance. So whether it is clearing, whether it's accounting, and all of those aspects really play into how speedy some of these executions can get. So what we've decided at HBUS for our Huobi.com platform is to add more data headquarters throughout the region, just so that we can get that scalability, the network, optimizing the network done, so that we are prepared and well ahead of the times.
Perfect.
Excuse me. Short answer is obviously a resounding yes. We need to continuously improve our infrastructure, improve our services, but also I think we've come a long way. And while there was a huge bubble and excitement last November 2017, certainly right now the sentiment is not the same. We're using this quiet period to really build on our services and make our core exchange better. So that's our commitment. But also, I think ultimately consumers vote with their feet, right? So if the platform is clunky, if your order status doesn't refresh in time, you're not going to be happy. And so I think that's a telling tale. We have to look, watch, hear from our customers, and make our services better every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think as a customer myself, we look at the entire package, right? We look at the liquidity, we look at the security, we look at the technology, all of those things, and how easy it is to use, which I think maybe sometimes is understated. And I think I completely agree that now is the right time to be building these things, right? And it's just to set ourselves up for the next bull run. If you start building during the noisy period, you're just not going to make it in time. But the quiet period is really a good time to start, refactoring and building out all this tech. So maybe changing gears a little bit. I'm sure the audience is, they're probably invested into a whole bunch of different kinds of tokens, and everybody's always very curious about what the listing process for an exchange looks like. So if you guys could share some color on that. So what goes into getting a coin listed? What are the things that you look for? Is there a fee that has to be paid? Is there sort of a regulatory checklist? Is there market cap kind of checklist? I mean, so what are all the different factors that go into listing a new coin?
We have what I thought was a great post by Jason Lau, who's our Chief Operating Officer for OKCoin USA. It's out on Medium, and so you could please refer to it. But the short answer is all of the above. Without the listing fee formally, what we like to see is an exciting project that the entire ecosystem can take advantage of, such as TRX, along with this conference. But also in the US, as well as more and more countries internationally, we must abide by local rules. And so in the US, as we've heard at a constant rhythm, we are not a ATS or broker-dealer, and therefore we cannot list securities. We cannot facilitate the trading of securities. So we must ensure that it's a utility token or a convertible virtual currency and meet that definition. So that's another huge barometer. And so we work with the sponsors, the listing, the projects, and so we conduct our due diligence on that. So it's not a speedy process. We try to make it faster, but it's a due diligence process. And so I would please ask that you look up that blog that we wrote about our listing process.
The quick answer is basically no, we don't have any listing fees. If you're a token and you want to be listed through us, all you have to do is really contact us and say, hey, we're interested. And at that point, what we do is we give you an application, and also that's one way of getting interest, but also the second way of getting interest is really through our clients. Our clients are asking us, hey, when are you going to list this token? So those two ways really bring you as a new token or an existing token into our kind of purview. After that, after you've submitted all of the applications, basically we go ahead and vet through, whether it's a social media or social community, any of the resources and written type of resources that you have, we look at, as well as obviously the application. The whole process has been really and thoroughly vetted by our compliance and legal team. We obviously don't list any tokens that could be seen as a security. And then once you get listed with us, we basically monitor. We have an ongoing monitoring of our tokens on a monthly basis to check the news, check everything that's going on in the market to make sure and ensure that the whole initial process is still intact. So we can delist a token if it hasn't gone through the proper channels after it's been onboarded. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, right now, I think we're running out of time a little bit. And honestly, I have so many more questions that I'm interested in asking you guys. But unfortunately, we have to wrap up. So, maybe each of you, if you could take maybe a couple seconds to give some closing remarks, anything else you want to tell the audience, feel free to.
All right. Just looking out at this conference venue, this is, I get a different vibe than Consensus or any other large conference. I think there's more entrepreneurs here, and therefore I want to really emphasize that I personally don't know who the winners of our ecosystem is, and it's going to be an entrepreneur out there. We certainly hope that we're every day making a better exchange, and we will hopefully be one of the best exchanges out there. But it really comes down to projects. And I think throughout today and tomorrow, you'll hear more and more exciting projects. And I really want to see and use tokens as a use case. You may have heard my prior comments that I would love to see cryptocurrency currency. But I personally think it's still more of a stored value, more of a investment or novelty, which is perfectly fine. CryptoKitties is a cryptographic token, but it's fun. I'm not that interested in it, but it is fun to many people. And so I look for what our ecosystem will produce, and I think we have very exciting times.
At HBUS and Huobi.com, our mission really is to be able to provide you with the widest selection of tokens with the highest standards, and also be able to provide, whether you're a retail client or an institutional client, provide the solutions that are both innovative, secure, and compliant. So having said that, come and check us out, and we will be releasing some new tokens at the end of January, and we also have a wide pipeline of things that we are listing afterwards and also in review right now. So come check us out at Huobi.com.
All right, sounds good, guys. Really appreciate you guys taking the time today to join us and to answer our questions and share such wonderful insights. So why don't we give the panelists a round of applause.